Hi everyone, and welcome to Bluebeam Revu. My name is Ari, and I'm a Bluebeam certified instructor with Digital Drafting Systems. Today we're going to learn about sequences. We can turn many different kinds of markups into sequences. Text boxes, typewriters, and callouts are just examples. And what determines whether something can be turned into a sequence is the content within its text box. So the callout one, for example, needs to have just a number or a letter in it, but having a sentence like this means that I cannot turn this into a sequence. We can only turn markups into sequences in our tool chest. We'll go to our tool chest right here on the left side, and we need to already have it saved in the tool chest, and we'll need to right click on it and mouse over sequence and then click on define. Now I've got two sequences already, this one and this one here, and I can tell that they're sequences because on the bottom right side of the icon I can see this little reset sequence button. That's what happens when we mouse over it. It tells us that it is a reset sequence button. So what this means is that if I get rid of any other assets that are on the drawing, such as this C1, which is part of this sequence, so if I press the delete key, now that reset sequence button is grayed out. So we can't reset it, but as soon as I place one or more of these markups, now we have it as yellow. So we can reset the sequence whenever we're ready. So now what I can do is I can continuously place different markups onto the drawing that are part of the same sequence, and I'm also using my reuse markup tools button right down here. This allows me to continuously click, 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 and I don't have to click on the markup in the tool chest again. And it's automatically numbering it, but it's maintaining the alphabetical consonant of C. And it's just numbering it, and now we have a bit of a problem. It looks like we can't fit double digits in this markup because we didn't make the markup big enough to accommodate it. So what needs to be done is we need to take one of these markups, we'll double click on it just like this, and we can then click on the grip right here, the yellow grip right here, and we can stretch it out a bit. It doesn't matter how much we stretch it out because we're going to automatically resize the markup with this auto size text box button. The reason why that we stretched out the markup first and didn't just click on the button is because if you try to just do this like this, and if I click on the button right here, it basically will automatically resize itself, but never move items from a vertical area. So it'll always keep these items on their lines if there isn't enough space horizontally. So it'll never really resize horizontally properly. So we can just stretch it out for as long as we need to, and then click on auto size text box. And now it's condensed very nicely just like this. So we can right click on this, we can mouse over add to tool chest and add it to our tools, but look what happens when we try. It says this sequence already exists in the tool chests, and it shows us the original icon of the sequence when it was first introduced to the tool chest. Right now in the tool chest, you can see that part of that is clipping. There's a 0 down here that isn't showing because it was clipped just like how the C11 and C12 are clipped right here. So what we need to do is we need to delete this. I'm going to right click on it and delete it. And now I'm going to click on C10, right click on it, add to tool chest, and there it is. Now it says C13 because it's waiting for the new number in the list. And what I can do now is I can reset the sequence. I'm going to click on it and now it shows C1, but look at that. It looks like it's not really centered properly. So we can tell that it's accommodating two decimal places or two numbers and not 3 digits, for example. So if we had a third digit, that will trail off to the second line. So what we need to do is we can click on this, bring it onto our sheet if we want to. And now we're going to go into our properties here. We're going to scroll all the way down, and here is alignment, and we can change our alignment from left to center alignment, just like that. And now we can add this to the tool chest. So I'm going to delete this one, and I'm going to add this one to the tool chest. Right click, add to tool chest, AR tools. There it is, nice and centered just the way we want it, and we know that that will accommodate two decimal places. So we can go up to 99 different column designations if the C stands for column, for example. I'm going to get rid of all of these other values right here just to make sure that this old sequence is gone. Now we have this new sequence, and we know that this is working because it said C2 in our tool chest the whole time. If it wasn't working, then it would have shown C13 or C14 or the next number in the list compared to all the others. So now, if I click on this and I place it on the drawing, everything is looking good. We're going to test and make sure that two decimal places works, and there it is. Now we have two decimal places centered very nicely right here, and this is looking very good. Now look what happens if I actually go and I delete any number in the middle of this sequence. So for example, I'm going to delete C8, and look what happens to everything after C8. they automatically renumber themselves. The new C8 was the old C9, and so on and so forth until we get to C12. We can do the same here with C3, and we'll see what happens to all the other numbers after it. There we are. We're automatically renumbering our sequence just by deleting any number in the sequence. We don't have to do anything manually. The sequence automatically renumbers itself. The next number in the sequence is 12, and we can tell just by looking at it in the tool chest. So this is how we can use sequences, and now I'm going to show you how to make one from scratch. Before we make one from scratch, let's take an existing callout and see if we can turn it into a sequence. So I'm just going to take this existing callout that I made right here, double click on it to turn it back into carbon copy mode, right click on it, mouse over sequence, and define is available to me. So I could make sequences out of this if I wanted to, and it's actually going to change the text there and change it to whatever text that we click when we define right here. Before we get into this dialog, let's do this from scratch so that we don't mess around with that existing callout. I'm going to make one from scratch, so I'll go to Tools and Markup, and here's Callout. And I'll just make one right here, and we'll click, and let's prep our sequence. What kind of sequence do we want? We may as well get the same text that we're going to be using in our sequence prepared ahead of time. We don't need to do that, but it's going to be a little bit easier to keep track of it if we do it like that. So let's do this sequence differently from the others. We're actually going to use a numerical value first, and then an alphabetical one. So let's type in the number 1 because we can start a sequence with 1, but actually I'm going to show you that we can make sequences even if we needed to. So I'm going to start with the number 2 to demonstrate that. And let's do A. We're going to make only even sequences, 2A, 4A, 6A, etc., etc. So now I'm going to press the escape key. There is my callout ready to go. I'm going to right click on it, mouse over add to tool chest, and add it to my tool chest right here. Now it's in the tool chest. It's not a sequence yet. First, I'm going to move this one back to its spot. There we go. And now I'm going to right click here, mouse over sequence, and click on define. Here's where I can choose my style of sequence. So if I wanted to, I could keep the number 2 and just change the letter if I really wanted to. So I could change it from numbers to Roman numerals to letters right here if I wanted to. But we're going to do numbers this time, just like we did before. And we won't have a prefix. This sequence here with the C has a prefix of C, but in this case, we're going to do a suffix of A because that is at the end. We're going to start with the number 2, and this time we can go up in increments. So I'm just going to go up in increments of 2. Therefore, now I have even numbers only. This is the special option right down here, renumber when markups deleted. That's how my sequence automatically renumbered itself. If you don't want it to do that, you can uncheck this box, and that way, if I was to delete C4, for example, C5, 6, etc., would not renumber themselves. They would remain as they are. So now we have our style ready, suffix, start and increments are ready to go. We could also change how we reset our sequence. It could be per document or per page. So we can have our sequences continue on different pages in the PDF set by choosing document. I'm going to do that. It doesn't really matter in this instance. I'm now going to click OK. And there it is. Our sequence number is there. This markup right here is technically not part of the sequence. So you can see 2A is available. Now I can place 2A, and immediately after there it is 4A, 6A, 8A, etc., etc. And that's how the sequence works. And this is how you can take anything and create different kinds of sequences. The most common one are the ones that we see here with basically numbers and going up by increments of 1. So C2 turns into C3, etc., etc. And I've already made this sequence able to accommodate 2 digits right there. Now we can see that C11, C12, they all fit very nicely. And that's how you can make sequences from scratch, and this is how you can use them. Thank you very much for watching our tutorial on sequences in Bluebeam Revu. Once again, my name is Ari, and I'm with Digital Drafting Systems. Hope you have a great rest of your day.